Hey, how y'all doing? Hey royalties! Welcome back to my channel. Look, I was gonna do a video on basically where I've been, but I'm like, nah, I feel y'all rather have a story time. So we're gonna do a story time today. That's what we're gonna do. Alright, girl, let's get right into it. Story time, okay? That's what we're gonna do today. But before I hear the story, I feel like you know what you need to do. You need to first, like, hit that like button. Like, let's start there. Like, you've been with me for about a good couple of something seconds, going on a minute, and you like it. You like it. Your attention span has surpassed this long. Go ahead and hit the like button. And because you know I'm still keeping you interested, I'm talking for a long period of time. Basically, what I'm saying is, you've been interested this long, hit the subscribe button and the like button. And also, guys, go ahead and hit that bell notification. Oh my god, you like this? Yeah! You like my little fit? Like my whole little grunge vibe, emo, kind of gothic look I'm giving y'all, get that vibe, I'm loving it. Like, I'm living my teen angst dream life right now. Teen angst, not teenage dream. Shout out Katy Perry, but no, teen angst dream. Yeah. Enough of that. Let's get into the story time, sis. Alright, so I figured I would tell about this time that I got lost in New York. I mean, the first time. I've got lost in New York plenty of times. Let me backtrack. Let me backtrack a little bit for those. I used to live in New York. I was born in California. Lived in California for the early part of my life. And then I want to say I moved after middle school. So 8th grade, like 2009, I moved to New York. So I lived in New York for my freshman, sophomore, and junior year. This was about a good 3 to 4 years. 3 years, because high school's 4 years, but whatever. So yeah. So I moved there basically freshman year of high school. So, initially when I moved to New York, I lived in Queens. And in Queens, that was a whole culture shock in itself. We can have a whole nother story time, but let's focus on the story today. So in Queens, I would take the bus to and from school. When I initially moved to New York from California, I just had the mentality of like, oh, public transportation, the hell is that? In California, a lot of people, we do have public transportation, but the public transportation system is not as advanced, if you will, as New York. So, I always, my parents, we always had a car, take us here and there. Moved to New York, we didn't have a car, and we had to take public transportation. At first, I was freaking mortified. Let's go there. I was freaking mortified I had to take public transportation. I may come off like a whiny brat when I say that, but I was like, I really was like appalled that I had to take public transportation. Like, I'm like, what the hell? Sorry. But that's what I thought. I was like, oh my gosh, we're taking buses? I did not know that, it was a thing pretty much. Like, that's pretty much in New York how you got around. In New York City, they have a system. Basically, the government, if you're a student, you get a student metro card that allows you 3 rides. My mama said, you taking the subway and the train, the bus, however you got to get to school. I'm not paying for taxis, because believe me, I tried. I asked, I'm like, Mom, can I just get a taxi to take me No. We moved across the country. That was hella expensive. We are not Kardashians. Okay? Alright, so for the first, up until spring, before I went on spring break, I lived in Queens with my aunt. So my commute to school prior to me moving out of Queens, basically was one bus. Hopped on the bus, knew what time it ran, got on, got off, walked to school. That was it. Real simple. All I need to know what time the bus came. Hey, got used to that, to and from. Then moved to the Bronx. Now, the Bronx is not within the same, it's not in the same borough, so it actually is quite, honestly, on opposite ends of the city, like literally northeast, southwest, opposite sides. So pretty much it wasn't just a hop and a skip away anymore, and it was a hard, long travel. The commute from school was pretty much 2 hours almost, just taking it was about 3 trains. 3 to 2 trains. Fastest route I want to say is like maybe 2 hours. And of course that doesn't count like if trains are running behind, if there's traffic or trains. Completely yes, there gets traffic or trains. You wouldn't think there is, but there is, and it's crazy. So I no longer just took one bus straight to school because of the distance that I lived from the school. Now, looking at an adult now that I understand distances, miles, and things of that nature, my ass should have transferred schools to a school nearest me in my borough. But being a teenager, you know, I literally just moved from California. I'm not even all the way through my first year of high school. Chose to make the option to just do that commute. It wasn't a thing to me. I figured I could do it, and I really didn't want to lose the friends that I made already. Like, I just moved across the country, and now you're making me move across the state. What the hell? I'm gonna stay at the school. You can kiss my ass. My sister changed her school, but I kept my school, so that was that. So during spring break was the whole move. Now, the night before spring break was over, the day before I had to go back to school, I had to pretty much like map how I was gonna get to school. And the transportation system company in New York, they have they have like basically you can enter your to and from destination, and it'll route your route through the system, almost like Waze or like maps would do, but just using the public transportation systems like train to bus to bus to bus, or whatever the transfer would be, whatever be necessary. So I used the website, of course, and it showed me the way from my new house to school in Queens, my new house in the Bronx to my school in Queens. So backtrack a little bit let's take a little time travel back. When I first moved to New York City was, you know, a bit dirtier than my liking, but then on top of that, I'm like, you know, New York has that stigma. They're like, oh, we got rats and roaches and things. Hey, I'm never going underground in New York is what I told myself. And then I found out there was a subway system. I'm like, you know what? I'm not going underground because that's what rats and roaches. That's dirty. That's gross. And I'm kid you not. I promise you, I really wish I was just kidding, but I kid you not. That's really what I said. That's really what I thought. That's really what I believed. Because honestly, in my defense, in my teenage ignorant defense, I, you know, in my mind, pictured like mole people, like just I pictured like, I'm like, how in the hell do people like make these? Like, I pictured like mole people. I was like, hell, like I was just like, I refused. Thought, hell no, never riding that subway. Little did I know, bitch, if you want to get around in New York City on public transportation, you're gonna have to. You're gonna have to. I mean, you can get around other ways, taxis, woo. Yeah, we're not the Kardashians. My thing is, I saw like the easiest, fastest ways when I mapped from my house in Bronx to school in Queens, that pretty much the easiest and fastest ways were the trains. So I was like, all right, bitch, you're going to have to ride the subway. So the next morning, you know, I have my phone with me, which I have my little prepaid Virgin Mobile phone. I think at the time, I don't remember what type of phone I freaking had. I just remember it was a Virgin Mobile. I just had Virgin Mobile for the longest of times. Leave a comment down below if you remember Virgin Mobile. Shout out to Virgin Mobile. Whatever happened to them? I think they got bought out. Pretty sure they got bought out. But hey, so yeah, so I had my phone, you know, I'm on the train. I was like, okay. And then in the Bronx, or at least where I lived at, like the trains went up, they right by where I lived, like they were above ground. So the trains actually, which I did end up learning, they run above ground and then, you know, certain areas, but for the most part, they're underground. So I felt a little more comfortable riding it because I'm like, okay, at least, mine's right above ground. I have a reception. That's also something I love because I was above ground partially the way to school. And I had like a little flip phone. I was on Facebook. I would take pictures. Texting. I would text people. I had a little flip phone. I was really doing all that on the flip phone. Press 4 3 times to get the letter I. Way to school, pretty much. I actually got off on the wrong stop. Because I remember street names. That was a problem too, because I was like so preemptive. I'm like, I'm not going to get lost. Because my thing is, I was worried I was going to get lost. That was another thing, because the subway system is crazy. I'm really actually good with direction and remembering street names. For whatever reason, it's a God-given talent that I just never asked for, but I got. And it's like to this day very helpful. Luckily, I was familiar with the area to just make my way back up, down, and get to school. So I made it to school, went to school, and then I had to take the train home. So my thing is, after school, I didn't go straight home after school that day. So, I hung around there with my friends, went to the park. Like, I was pretty much out, but after I got out of class at that point. And then I went to head home. I was on my phone, heading home from school. I'm like, okay, I looked at my little route. I'm like, okay, cool, got it. Boom, bam, thank you, ma'am. My phone died like halfway home and I was underground. So I was like, okay, I think I remember where I got off at. And then I looked up at they have like a little train map that basically tells you the stops of the train. Now, we explored, when we first moved up there to the Bronx, we explored, like we drove around from our house all the way around the neighborhood, little spots, and then all the way to my mom's job. So I was able to see that area. Then my dad, took us around to like the markets that were in the area, stuff like that. So I was able to see. So within doing that little tour prior to going back to school, I saw like a lot of street names. So now flash forward back to me heading home from school. I'm on the train with the dead phone, so I'm like, okay, so the last 3 stops, the names seemed very familiar, like that. Multiple choice, 3 out of the answers seemed right. So I'm like, oh crap, what am I gonna do? I'm like, sheesh. It's like, do I do any, meeny, miny, mo? I didn't know what the heck to do, because I'm like, okay, which one is the right stop? I was like, okay, screw it. I don't know, so I'm just gonna go to the last stop, because my thing is, it worked for me in the morning. I just walked down to the next stop, and then until something looked familiar to me. That was my plan. I was like, okay. I thought that was all cool until, I see the train turning and turning to the left. It took a couple of turns, so it wasn't on the same street to walk down on. So I got off the last stop. I chose the last one, and pretty much I realized, I'm like, okay, this is not my stop. I couldn't get back on the train because I got like to the last stop. It was like 8-9 o'clock. And I think, and then with the student metro cards, like you have your 3 rides. But the card like was active between 5 a.m. to like 8 p.m. So it's like there. I was pretty much just freaking out. I was like, oh my God. Well, I can't get back on. I couldn't get back on the train pretty much. And then I was lost. And my thing is, I didn't remember my address because literally I just moved there like during spring break. And spring break is a week. I only lived there for like a week. Hell if I look, I didn't know. It was like 9 o'clock. Things were closed. There was nobody like in the booth window because like certain train stations, like a booth person, like you can buy your Metro card from or ask them how to get here. They make you there's a train teller person. So nobody was there. I'm like, okay, well, I gotta hit the streets. I was like, there's nothing I can do. I have no phone. I'm just gonna walk till things look familiar or street names look familiar. Which, thinking back to it now, that plan doesn't sound the brightest. Like, you literally can walk into I think I was oblivious. So I could have literally walked into the wrong neighborhood. I could have literally just, look, I didn't care. My thing was like, oh, I gotta get out of here. I gotta go home. 9 o'clock in the Bronx. And I was out. So my thing is, I was just walking, and I just picked a direction. I picked the direction that I felt the train came from, and I did that. So I went that way because my thing is, like I said, it was above ground, so you can kind of follow along the train tracks to a certain extent. So I started following down the way I came from until then the train, went off awry, or went off of where I could actually, physically walk on to follow. So I'm like, okay, well, maybe I will just head down the street, is what my thinking was head down the street. Maybe it's the next stop, and maybe something will look familiar there. So I kept walking, not ever finding the train. I'm like, okay, I feel like I'm getting too far. I'm just walking. I'm getting too far from the train. So let me make a turn. I don't know what. Honestly, I kid you not, I don't know who was guiding me. It was God, let's be honest. And because I didn't know where I was going. So I just made a turn, and pretty much I'm like, no. I remember, like, something looked from, like, a street name looked familiar. Like, okay, I'm gonna take this street. So I just turned right on the street, and I'm just walking, still freaking out like a munchkin. 9 o'clock. I am a 15-year-old flamboyant ass gay boy in the Bronx, just walking these streets, and I'm just like, okay. Lost as fuck. And my thing is, look, you can tell when somebody ain't from your area. You can tell. And I did not look like I came nowhere from New York. Nowhere, honey. So it was just like, okay, well, I'm just walking. But it was late. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm freaking out. And I know, like, everybody's like, where the hell is Malik? At home, they're like, oh my God. My mom was at work, but, like, my dad and my sister, I think, were at home. And I'm like, I couldn't call anybody. Everything was closed. So I'm walking, I made this turn, and then, I don't know, like, I remember, like, seeing something. And I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, this looks familiar. So then I go down that direction, and I start walking some more. And it starts to look unfamiliar to me, but I keep going. For whatever reason, I just kept going and kept walking. I'm like, girl, keep walking. It may jog your memory later. So I just kept walking in that direction. And then, more stuff started looking familiar. And I was like, oh my God. Okay, I'm going the right direction. Before I knew it, okay, I'm like, okay, I remember this area. I'm like, this is part of the area where we drove by to get to my mom's job. I'm like, perfect. I knew my mom was at work. Now let's figure out how the hell to get to my mom's job. I'm like, at first the goal was to get home. That didn't work. Hell, get to somebody. But nevertheless, I remember seeing this grocery store that's by my mom's job. I remember it was like at the corner of the street, and I'm like, oh my God. I was so relieved. So relieved. Freaking out, but I'm like, okay, cool. Let me go. Started walking down the street on the Started walking down the street by the, passing the grocery store to near my mom's job, and then I came out of the building. Now, my mom at the time, she worked in this one building, and she was a caretaker in this, she was in this huge ass building, so she was a caretaker, for mentally handicapped people. She did the night shift, and she got off, I think, at 12, and it was I think by that time, I got to the building, or near the building, it was 9 going on 10. I've been walking for a good 40 minutes. I've been walking. So I get to the front of the building. Now, I get in the front of the area of the buildings. Now, I didn't specifically remember because it was how it is they live in these housing communities. These tall housing communities. And pretty much, I didn't know which building it was. And I was like, okay. Which one is it? I'm like, crap. So I saw some payphones. Now, for those that don't know, a payphone back in the day, folks that didn't have cell phones, you put a quarter in, or however the hell much it costs, you type in the number and you call them. I remember my mother's number. She had the same number since I was a kid. So I remember that number just by heart. So I'm like, oh my God, payphones. Ran to the payphone, bitch, if things were broken. It was around the time where payphones were pretty much going obsolete. Damn hate mustache hair. But yeah, it was around the time where payphones were pretty much going obsolete. So those were the ones that were obsolete and busted and broken. So I'm like, well, damn. Okay, so I'm like, okay, shit. I'm like, what the hell? I finally made it to somewhere familiar enough to where I know my mom is in the area. How the hell am I going to contact with her? So I'm just trying to, like, I walked down a cut, like, I walked away a little bit, like, down further to further, like a block down, maybe, to see maybe if there was any other payphones, like, for this next area. There wasn't, so I walked back. The businesses were closed, so I couldn't really, it was more of a residential area, so I couldn't really ask anybody to go in, like, their stores, use their phone. Then I'm like, shit, maybe I'll sit here until she comes out of work. I'm like, oh, what the hell else am I gonna do? I'm gonna just sit here, right? Shit, she gonna come out eventually, or I'm gonna, like, be close enough. I just have to stay, you know, I had a watch, luckily, that I was able to keep time. So, I was like, okay, well, I just guess I'll sit out here until she gets off of work. And I'll just have to, when it's time for her to get off work, I'll just have to be very vigilant and check and see which, you know, pretty much my dad driving to pick her up, my dad's car. So I'm just sitting there waiting. Maybe like an hour passes by. What did I do for that hour? Hell, I don't know. Well, I mean, what did I really do? Oh, that's what I did. I explored the neighborhood because I had nothing better to do. I just walked around the area. As if I didn't do enough walking, I did some more walking. I'm walking back to the front entrance of everything to pass to the other side. I see somebody and I'm like, oh my gosh, because I really didn't see anybody that looked approachable. Because my thing is, in New York, you know, coming from California, you know, people ain't approachable. You know, folks in New York are not approachable. They're not as friendly as California people. So like, I think I ran across like 2 people prior that didn't look approachable, nor had a cell phone. But this person was on their cell phone and literally looked approachable enough at this point. Because I'm like, okay, look, I don't know what the hell I'm gonna do. That was just a plan that if all else fails. I finally found somebody. So I ran to this person, like, oh my gosh, hi. I just moved here. You know, I gave him the whole spiel. Oh, you know, my little sob story. Girl, I just moved here. Just, you know, I got off on the wrong train stop. I've been walking all night. My feet hurt. I'm fucking hungry. And I'm just pretty much lost. I think my mom works here. I think she works on these buildings. I'm not sure. Those payphones over there are busted as hell, and I cannot seem to call her. I haven't been able to find anybody else friendly enough looking for me to ask them if I can use their phone. But can I use your phone, please, to call my mom? Just real quick. It is after 7. I know you got 3 minutes. It is okay. You can let me use your phone. Please. Can I use your phone? And the person let me use their phone. Called my mom. I was like, oh my gosh, you know. At this point, I was just so happy. I was hysterical. I was so overwhelmed with freaking emotion. I began to cry.
No, mommy, I'm just lost. I got off on the wrong train stop. It's late. I've been walking around all night.
My mom's on the phone. Calm down, calm down. All right. Where are you? And I'm like, you know, I was so hysterical. I'm just like, I couldn't even like get out the words because I'm just so happy that I'm freaking like, because I personally knew like I'm like, the light was at the end of the tunnel. I'm at the end of the tunnel. Cool. I just had to get a hold of her. So I'm on the phone with her. And so when I finally got it, I'm like,
I've been walking and I just ended up some way bumping into your location of your job. I'm outside. I'm not sure which building you were in. And please come down and get me. Please. This person was nice enough to let me use their phone.
My mom was like, oh my gosh, okay, say no more. Let me just get somebody, my partner, to, you know, keep an eye on them, and I'll be right down. Needless to say, my mom came down, and girl, when I tell you, I ain't never been happy to see my mama in my life. At that moment, you know, it was like 11 o'clock. She had like 1 hour left in her shift. So pretty much I just hung out with her at work. It was cool. I sat in the apartment with them. And when she clocked out, my dad picked us up and we went home. And that was the first time that I got lost in New York City. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you were able to share and get like a little insight of, you know, like a little story time with me. If you liked this, please let me know, because I do like to tell stories. I really do. I do get all over the place. I do get sidetracked sometimes with my stories, but if you like how I tell stories, hey, let me know in the comments. I can definitely do more. I have plenty of stories to tell you. Girl, I got a bunch to dish. So if you look, royalties, if you wanted more stories, let me know. I will give you more stories. That's something I can incorporate and start doing. But that's pretty much it for me tonight. I'm gonna go ahead and go on and just, hang out and chill out and stuff. But you're welcome to go ahead and check out, some more of my other videos if you'd like to. As always, thank you guys so much for being here. Go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't already. Look, you sat through the story. Go ahead and hit it. Go ahead and hit it. And also hit the bell for notifications. Leave a loving comment below. I really appreciate it. Let me know what your favorite part of the story was, and things of that nature. But I am done for the evening. I'll see you guys later. Bye.